Good morning and welcome. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Reading. We are a regional church serving communities north of Boston, and with our YouTube outreach, committed individuals throughout the continental U.S. My name is Al Murray. My pronouns are he, his, him. I'm a member of the worship arts team, the reopening team, and the tech team. You'll notice some things today that are similar and some things that are different. I see a lot of faces out here, which is wonderful. Familiar faces and new faces. It's great. A couple of things that were different today. You didn't have to register to attend. This is a good first step. Another thing, I'm down here on the chancel instead of up in the loft. Deb Weiner, our transitional ministerial associate, is taking a well-deserved vacation and will be back soon. Our guest speaker today is Reggie Gibson, a Unitarian Universalist, literary performer and lecturer who uses his writing and performance skills to help members of faith communities creatively express themselves concerning spiritual matters. He has lectured and performed in the US, Cuba, and Europe. Reggie has served as a think tank member and consultant for both the National Endowment for the Arts, How Art Works initiative, and for the Mere Distinction of Color, an exhibit at Montpelier, the historic home of President James Madison, examining the legacy of slavery and the US Constitution. He is a Brother Thomas Fellow and resides in Lexington. Welcome, Reggie.
Thank you.
So in addition to the differences, you'll notice quite a few things are the same. We are still wearing masks, except when we're speaking at the lectern. Kids occasionally get loose and run around the pews. It's kind of awesome. Love that part. We are wearing masks, although this is currently under review and may change as the case numbers drops and vaccination and immunity rises. Stay tuned. We are still sharing our largesse with a Share the Plate partner. Each Sunday, Unitarian Universalist Church of Reading gives away half the money received in the collection plate to a nonprofit organization that shares our UU values. It's a simple yet powerful way for each of us to help heal the world by learning about and supporting the good works of charitable organizations and becoming more involved in our community. Our congregation has now donated over $25,000 to 25 nonprofit organizations since Share the Plate began in November 2019. And I expect that number is a little low. We're going to get a new number from AJ someday. Our Share the Plate recipient for the month of March is Alternatives for Community and Environment, ACE. ACE is an environmental justice nonprofit based in Roxbury. ACE works to eliminate environmental racism, create healthy, sustainable communities, and achieve environmental justice. Currently, ACE is working to increase energy-efficient housing for low-income families, advocating for the adoption of renewable energy, and striving to remove lead to reduce cases of lead poisoning. Asthma rates are high in Roxbury due to the high volume of truck traffic, so ACE is working to improve stronger enforcement mechanisms to limit diesel emissions. ACE is also advocating for increased free public transit. Please give generously to our Share the Plate offering to support both Alternatives for Community Environment and our mission of the UUCR. And as a side note, the Program Council picks our Share the Plate recipients at their quarterly meetings. If you would like to suggest an organization, let someone on the Program Council know. Any nonprofit that shares our UU values is eligible. Another thing that's constant, that remains the same, is our belief that you belong here with us, perhaps for the next hour, although we hope you'll return again and again. So today, with Reggie, Katie, our intern minister, Sally, Mary, Trevor, and the choir, Melissa, Linda, our tech team, Will and Robin up in the loft, and Suzanne helping with the YouTube chat, and later our virtual coffee hour host, Tom, we welcome you. I'd like to introduce A.J. Heidekamp, this year's Pledge Drive spokesperson, with an important message.
Good morning. I know how anxious everyone is to get back to normal. So I ask you, what could be more normal than me being up here on the first Sunday of March asking for your money? Too normal too soon? I'm A.J. Heidkamp, and I'm here this morning to kick off our annual pledge drive. Well, it's been another challenging year, a real roller coaster ride, and it's left most of us feeling anxious, tired, and drained. And since we've had to stay apart physically, many of us feel isolated and disconnected. We could all use a good hug. But now we're gradually starting to move forward again. We've resumed hybrid in-person Sunday services. Our wonderful choir is singing together, live, right here in church. Ari is picking up steam, and Deb Weiner has joined the staff. Things are getting better with each passing day. Our pledge drive theme this year is Keepers of the Flame. At this transitional time in our history, we are all called to keep our flame bright by reconnecting with each other, welcoming back those we've missed, recommitting to our mission, and re-engaging for the future. We're so grateful to all of you who have been tending the flame since the pandemic began. The worship arts team, the tech team, the choir, and featured musicians, and everyone else who has helped provide wonderful Sunday services week after week. Our governing board for working tirelessly, finding ways to keep everyone and everything together during these challenging times. The pastoral care team, the caring and sharing team, and the Healing Shawl Ministry for helping those who are hurting get through the pandemic. The reopening team for putting in long hours figuring out how to keep us safe. The Finance Council, especially Ron Cavicchio, for working countless hours and many sleepless nights figuring out how to navigate these very difficult financial times. The Property Committee for dealing with several emergency repairs over the past few months. Our dedicated staff who have continuously adapted in creative ways during this year of constant change. And special thanks to all of you who have stepped up in large and small ways to deal with a wide variety of unexpected situations. And despite all of these challenges, there has in fact been a lot going on. Virtual programs and some in-person activities almost every day of the week. Indoor and outdoor RE activities. The installation of our new automatic accessible doors in memory of Carol and Grace. The repair of the Slate Sanctuary roof, a reimagined Kris Kringle fair and online auction. And throughout the pandemic, we've continued to find ways to help heal the world through the activities of the Social Justice Together team, the Bread and Roses support group, Share the Plate, Undecorate the Tree, PFLAG, and more. However, on the financial side, we're still not out of the woods. The federal COVID relief funds that helped to keep us afloat for the past 2 years will be gone by June. Our rental and fundraising income is not recovered yet, and the balance of our reserve fund is nearing zero. So it's imperative that we have a successful pledge drive this year. Our goal is to have the participation of all of our members and friends and to raise $385,000. That will enable us to focus on reopening our church and reestablishing our programs. I know we can do it. Here's how you can help. If you're already pledging, please consider increasing your pledge by 10 to 20% or more to help get us back on track. If that's not possible, consider a 5% increase to help keep up with inflation. For a $2,000 pledge, that would be an increase of $100 a year, or just $8 per month. And if you haven't started pledging yet, this would be a great time to begin. Pick an amount that works for your budget and make a pledge. Every pledge, large and small, will be gratefully received. We're going to email the pledge packets out in the next few days. And just like last year, we're asking everyone to make their pledge online. It's quick and easy. Just go to the church's website and click on the donate button and select Pledge Drive. We ask that you please submit your pledge by Commitment Sunday, which is March 27th. Due to the pandemic, the way we do just about everything has changed, but our commitment to this congregation, each other, and the world around us remains the same. With your support, we'll continue to overcome whatever obstacles we encounter as we continue our reopening process. We are the keepers of the flame. It's up to us, all of us, to reconnect, recommit, and re-engage so that together we can keep UUCR's flame burning brightly, both now and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, AJ. Greetings, everybody. Man, it feels good to be in church. You know, sometimes you don't miss the water, you know? It's good to be in both organic and digital community with you all. I want to thank you for opening up the pulpit and taking a chance on me. I also want to thank the folks who have made this and every worship and fellowship Sunday that we have possible. There's always like these little worker bees in the background that we don't see that bring us the sweetest honey, and we need to acknowledge that. Even more so in this time of sickness and pestilence, we need community. So we gather, again, both physically and electronically, taking a chance, all of us summoned here into this place that will be whatever it is that we make it. But we'll make it what it will be together. So together, let's make it a space of meaning and purpose, not just to serve us, but to remind us of the need to be of service to others, a space in which we may not touch, but we can reflect upon our need to reach out and be touched, to be social despite the distance. Let's make this a space that reminds us that it is spirit, love, kind words uttered in an hour of need that has and always will shrink the spaces between us. Today, together, let us create sacred community.
Good morning. I'm Katie McQuaige-Lucas, your ministerial intern, and my pronouns are she and hers. Please join me in lighting our chalice together. In the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, we gather this day. May the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the holiness we seek. And now our children's affirmation, as you know it, as you are learning it, please join. We are Unitarian Universalists, the church, the open mind, the loving heart, and the helping hands.
Good morning, everyone. It is so good to see all of you. I'm Mary Cunningham, your music director, and I am delighted that you are going to be able to join us in song. We'll open our service with the opening hymn, 1028 in the teal hymnal. I hope you can find one in near your pews. Let's rise in body or spirit and sing together, Fire of Commitment.
Soul Good morning, everyone. I'm Sally Lieberman, and my pronouns are she and her. And Reggie and I are going to have a chancel chat for our Time for All Ages today. There is no RE, and we are staying in church this morning, so I'm going to invite you to enjoy the service and enjoy Time for All Ages from where you are. There's some quiet activities around, and that's actually part of what we're going to talk about today. Welcome, Reggie.
Thank you.
We're so glad that you're here. You are talking to us today about character.
Yes.
That's the title of your sermon, is A Question of
Question of
Character.
character. Yes,
Yeah. You are a member of First Parish Lexington,
I am.
and I was asking you before, is that church like ours?
As far as architecture, not really.
No.
Not really. I'm sure it is in spirit, but it's a larger church, you know, and you know, just that in itself just sort of makes it a bit more expansive and all of that. But I personally prefer a much more intimate church, but that's not what they gave me. So, you know,
So this one's smaller and it feels a little bit
yeah, I
closer
prefer the
in.
smaller spaces that feel more intimate. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a red rug?
Do I have a red rug? We do, I think.
That is such a thing, UU
Yeah,
churches.
I think it is a UU
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Do you have coffee hour?
We do. Now we're doing digital coffee hour, so not really coffee, but yeah.
Oh,
we do
coffee
have
hour on Zoom.
on Zoom. Get your own coffee, that kind of thing.
On Zoom, yeah. We've done that too. When you're meeting in person, do you have goldfish?
No,
That is something that we have when
You
we
have
meet in
goldfish,
person
okay.
at coffee hour.
Good.
Yeah, and lots of hot chocolate and some snacks. We were talking a little bit earlier about your service and talking about character.
yeah.
And if we were thinking about character, you can think about your favorite character in a movie or a story.
Right.
And if you have a favorite character, there's probably things about that character that you like, maybe feel similar with.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite character?
Well, one of my favorite characters is Hector from the Iliad, who had a tremendous sense of duty not only to his people but to his family, and went out to do what he had to do, even though he knew he was not going to come back. Right, and it is you see in the book him with his wife Andromache and the tenderness that passes between them, even though he's clad in armor. There's a tenderness that passes between them, and there's a scene where he's with his son. And again, he knows he's not coming back, but he knows he has to do what he has to do. And to me, in that book, he's really the hero. He's really the hero of the book. So he's probably one of my favorites of all time.
Sounds like courage.
Yeah,
Courage and bravery.
yeah, yeah, and a sense of duty to those who you love, even though you know you won't see that come to fruition. Whatever you're leaving them behind, you won't see that. It's doing something for the next generation.
I wonder if any of us have characters that we might admire for something similar, for bravery and courage, and thinking about bravery being when the result is never guaranteed.
Right. And the thing about him is that he was afraid.
He was afraid.
That was the thing. It wasn't this sort of, I'm just going to go and do my thing. It's like, no, he was afraid. He was fearful. Even when it came down to it, he had to face Achilles. He took off and ran because he was overcome with this human thing of knowing that your death is coming. But then he decided, I got to turn around and face this cat, and he does.
So he lives into his own character.
Yeah.
He lives into who he wanted to be.
Absolutely.
And he met moments.
He met the moment.
He met moments. Wow. Part of what we get to do as being human is live into our own character. Because we get to decide who we want to be. I know that I would like to be somebody who was able to root myself more in courage and kindness.
Yeah. My father said something to me once when I was not being my best self. And he said, The character of a person is determined by how they treat people the world says they could mistreat. Let me say that again. The character of a person is often determined by how they treat people the world says they could mistreat. And it totally changed how I saw stuff. He didn't have a whole lot good to say, but I mean, that was one of those jewels I took with me, you know, and I still keep with me today, and I pass it on to my children as well.
That became part of what informs your character. And you make choices now
Based on that.
based on that. Is it always easy? Is it always easy?
No. You kidding? I mean, you know, my instinct is to mistreat people I don't like.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's the instinct, right?
Right,
But
right.
it's like if we follow those instincts, then this world would be a much poorer place. Even though it's not great at times, it would be much poorer if we follow that instinct of mistreating people all the time that we don't like. But to be truly people of better character, it means we have to go against some of those instincts to reach toward our higher, more transcendent selves. And that is, for me, where the struggle always is. And struggling is how we build muscle. So it's not the easy stuff, it's the tougher stuff.
We get to practice throughout our lives. You know, some people say that UUs don't believe in anything. And they say that this is like this fluffy faith because we don't have a whole set of rules. However, we have a principle that tells us that we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of all people. And that is not easy
No.
when it is somebody that we don't particularly care for, that we don't trust, or that we don't agree with. And therein, I guess we get to decide who we want to be and work on living into our own characters in our own stories.
Well said.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here
you.
today, Reggie.
Thank you, thank you, thank you all.
Thank you. We're staying in for service today. We're going to light candles. We're going to sing. We're going to listen to Reggie and Katie. Find your activities over in the family area or out in the narthex. Thanks for being here. And as we do each week, we are lighting our red candle of community, reminding us that we are a community of memory and hope. And today, we light our candle representing peace, knowing that we are a community whose love and commitment extends beyond our warm walls. And today we hold room in our hearts for those around the world who are lonely and fearful. We pray, we hold our deepest thoughts for the safety and comfort or for anyone in danger. And we hold our love for anyone in the world who does not feel loved this morning. Let us respond with fiery commitment to create brave and transformational change in our shared world. Let us be people of good courage, loving deeply into that community, far beyond our walls. Let's take a breath as we settle into our prayer time to settle into our deepest thoughts, find our love, find our commitment, and let's listen for Katie.
Will you please join me in prayer? Infinite mystery, you surround us, you move through us and among us, never fully knowable, but ever present. We gather this morning, each of us entering this space and this time with our cares and our concerns and our joys and our sorrows, bringing our hearts and our spirits together. We lift up our hearts with joy this morning in the delight of being together, in gratitude for our community and in hope for its renewal. We also join with Allison Sillers in gratitude this morning for the care this community has offered her and her family and the love that has held her during this time. We also join our spirits with Paula Houle this morning and her father and her family in sorrow and remembrance on the anniversary of the loss of her mother. May her family and all those who grieve know that they are not alone. May they find comfort. Spirit of love and life, we pray this morning for all those who feel disconnected, who feel the sorrow of loss, who mourn what once was. We pray that they and that we all might find connection, wholeness, comfort, and hope. And may we know that we are worthy of that love and connection. This morning we pray for peace, for justice, and for the freedom of all peoples, especially for the people of Ukraine, but also for the people of Yemen, Syria, Myanmar, and all who suffer in violent and unstable places. We pray this morning for peace, a true peace, one founded on the dignity of all people, and not only on the absence of conflict. Spirit of justice and peace, may we always be open to your movement in the world, and may we always remember that it is our words and the work of our hands that bring you into fullness. Amen, and may it be so. And now I would like to invite you to come forward and light a candle and offer up your own prayers and spend a few moments in silent meditation. You can come up the center aisle and back down on the sides, and Al and I will each take a table and meet you there.
Thank you. That's one of my favorites. Thank you. For a while since the pandemic, people would come and ask me, how you doing? And I would respond with, I'm traumatized, but I'm dealing with it. That's how I'm doing. And I said that quite a lot, and then I started thinking about poets who had gone through some of the worst parts of history, and they were traumatized, but they found ways of dealing with it through their work, and still found ways to be humane and kind. And one of them I ran into was Robert Service. I'm going to do an edited paraphrasing of a piece of his. It's called Character. Service was a British-Canadian poet and journalist, and he also did some reporting of World War I, and it was very, very traumatizing for him. He lived into the mid-20th century. And his verse, what he said is, how often do I wish I were what people call a good character. I'd radiate hope and cheer and grow kindlier with every year. I'd neither argument nor anger know, but my own way would serenely go. I'd seek to understand the woes of man, yet walk with humor, hand in hand. I'd be simple, decent, kind, be of gentle heart, of quiet mind, letting thought for others be my guide. Let patience triumph over pride. I'd show charity for those who err, live life in a way that would make others say he was a blessing, a person of good character. Now, some of you who know me here, you might know me as writer and a performer. And I believe the last time I was here was in that capacity. It was from a production of the Sources Cantata that was conducted by Mary. And most of the writing I have done would be classified as poetry, but occasionally I write stories. My feeble forays into fiction often begin with a character who wants something. I envision this character. I begin nailing down their basic qualities. I often put those stories away, never to be worked on again. But when the pandemic started, I, like most of us, was looking for something to do. So I began to revisit some of those stories and characters, and I found some surprising analogies between the process of rewriting characters and the process of myself becoming the character I'd like to become or live into. The first thing I do with the character that I am revisiting is to reconcile myself to the idea that everything about the character is in question, that everything needs to be reassessed, that many aspects may need to change. I make a list of my character's strengths and liabilities and resolve to work on them. And so with myself, in assessing what I take as my strengths and liabilities, I asked, what are the aspects of me that serve, and what are those that sever? What qualities serve this character in becoming a better, more focused, more compassionate self that is better able to achieve his moral objective concerning family and community, and what qualities sever those possibilities? It usually takes me several attempts to do this because this is embarrassing. It is painful when I am confronted with the mistakes and missteps that I have made and keep making. Some years ago, and I am now of an age when some years ago means 25, my dear friend and mentor, Mr. Kent Foreman, said, "Young man, may you live long enough to realize the fool you've been." Well, I am happy and reluctant to report that his blessing has come to fruition. Not only have I lived long enough to realize my foolishness, but I have lived long enough to recognize the inconsistencies between this character's thought and action. And the pandemic gave me enough pause to see it. But now that it is made plain to me, I see that I must be ready to commit myself to the necessary work of committing myself to the work of change. And that means committing myself to two overlapping processes inherent in good writing, that of revision and of editing. A character revision is to re-see the character, to look again with new vision. And to properly revise, I need to define and assess the character's desired goal. Is it a good one? Is it objectively a moral one? To what degree is it driven by selfishness? Why is it important to the character? What keeps the character from achieving it? Do the actions of the character help or hinder the character from attaining this goal? Again, which aspects will serve and which will sever? This character says he wants to live in Paris, but if he doesn't want to get off of his couch in Cambridge, living in Paris is unlikely. What about him keeps him on the couch? What will get him to leave the couch? Clearly, a mere desire for living in Paris is not enough. Likewise, with the Reggie character. Reggie, if you say you desire to live in a world in which people listen more compassionately to one another, but you don't examine how you have not and do not listen compassionately, then, Reggie character, you are partly the reason for this present lack of compassion in the world, and you do not deserve to live in that world, for you only deserve to live in the world you actively help create. Therefore, the need for a Reggie revision. The need to look again at how I am written. Look at what script I have been following and decide what needs to be revised to make this character's stated desires occur. After this, I must commit myself to a character edit. A character edit is the process of shaping a character into the quality of person better able to achieve the objective. This involves three things usually: correcting, condensing, and modifying. You can correct, condense, and modify a character so they will intentionally commit the actions related to the character's goals. And this will come with more tough questioning. Character correcting. What aspects of my character need correcting? In the case of the Reggie character, too much talking, too little listening. When did he become that way? It's always been there, but became more egregious after becoming a parent. What harm is caused by this flaw does not facilitate the desired relationship with those closest to him. Where did he learn that? Probably from imitating the worst aspects of his authoritative cop father and his authoritarian Bible-thumping evangelical fundamentalist Jehovah's Witness mother. But his own doubt and distrust is the true motive as well. Very often, writers give their characters something idiosyncratic or particular to that character. Often, this peculiarity presents itself when the character is about to do something or get involved in a situation of potential tension. In other words, they're doing that thing again. In the case of the Reggie character, when he should be listening more compassionately, his mind is racing ahead of the conversation in search of ways to counter how he thinks the statement being uttered will conclude. How can you tell this? His mouth is open before the other person stops speaking. He rubs the back of his neck, brings his chin toward his chest while keeping his eyes on the person talking. Knowing this is what happens just before I am about to commit jerkery, it helps me realize that I am about to do that thing again. That thing I do that severs community and doesn't serve my stated moral objective: to live in a world in which people listen more compassionately to one another. When I notice this happening, something clicks in my head and says, change your stance, soften your facial expression and disposition. By doing this, I notice the change of dynamic. I notice the situation begins to transform, and that better interactions between myself and others, in many cases my children, becomes possible. Character condensing. Often in rewriting characters, you and the character begin to lose focus. For the writer, this occurs when a writer abandons what is necessary and essential for what is extraneous, unnecessary, and potentially disruptive to the necessary and the essential. In applying this to the Reggie character, I might ask, what are the distractions that keep him from focusing? Is it when the questioning and examination get a little too tough, he turns on Netflix and watches something mindless? Or perhaps something educational, so as to convince himself that he is not running from himself, but moving toward knowledge? Does he call a friend and just chew the fat and perhaps talk of someone else, maybe gossip? Does he participate in Schadenfreude? Does he reach for an adult juice box to take his mind off the uncomfortable and annoying revelatory self-gazing? The answer is yes. The Reggie character does all of that, often at the same time. Author's note: what would happen if Reggie gave this uncomfortable self-gazing another 15 minutes of sustained attention instead of seeking a release valve the moment he gets freaked out at what he finds? Perhaps he will gain the strength and focus necessary to attain his moral objective. Character modifying. Lastly, let's talk about a bit of character modifying. By this, I mean examining the character's strengths and liabilities and assessing what slight changes might need to be made to move the character closer to the intended goal. To illustrate this, I'll depart a bit from literature and talk about film. Thinking of the film Major League. talk about characters. This film about a baseball team on a losing streak features a pitcher named Rick Vaughn, who can throw a fastball at up to 101 miles per hour. However, Rick has no control. He practices and practices but gets no better. However, he doesn't give up. Later, it's discovered that Rick has bad eyesight. The question I've always thought about this movie is, did Rick know he had bad eyesight and his vanity wouldn't allow him to do what was necessary to change the situation? Or did he just not recognize how bad his sight had become? Had he, as Cornel West has said, become well-adjusted to a maladjusted situation? Well, Rick decides to get glasses. And now, with corrected vision, he can better see what he is aiming for. Things begin to improve. Then, with patient coaching, Rick begins to recognize what in his form is working and what isn't working as well as it could. He makes slight modifications which, when practiced, improve Rick's pitching dramatically. He had the goods. He just needed certain modifications and patience to make him more effective. To modify is not to completely change the character. It is often to take what is a strength or liability and make small adjustments to help the character obtain the goal. I have taken, to help me do this, to documenting some of the interactions I have with those I love in which there is consistent tension, and been seeing what little thing or things I did that made the situation better or worse, what served and what severed. Brief example is when the pandemic happened and my son, my oldest boy, came home from college. I got into gotta get tough mode, right? Because where I come from, right, you have to keep fighting. So I'm like, you don't let this get this down. You gotta get tough, you gotta get tough. I didn't realize what he was going through. And once we had a talk, this came from that. We sat by the backyard fire, you and I. The night was clear, the crickets cricketed. We'd argued a week before and swore we did not want that father and son to be who we would become. You told me you felt a little depressed, how you never envisioned going to college in your bedroom. You lamented missing your friends and the freedom you no longer have at home with me. You stressed how you needed that freedom and how you'd like to feel the confidence it gave you in that brief time you had outside of my all-seeing eye and unrealistic expectations that you get out of bed by 10 a.m. and have to ask to borrow my car. I felt my father's voice rising like a flood in my throat about to spill out saying, "So, if I understand correctly, what you want is to do what you want to do when you want to do it, have no responsibilities, and have me pay for it. Son, one of us is insane." But I held my tongue, put my hand over my mouth, and instead listened to the tears you barely held back. Writing these vignettes helps me get a better understanding of the Reggie character, how he reacts and interacts with those he loves and desires to be in community with. Revision. Take another look at what you think you know and be committed to seeing things differently. Editing. Be prepared to reshape everything. Correcting. Assess what needs to be corrected. Condensing. Focus and don't reach for something extraneous that takes focus away. Modifying. Ask what small changes need to be made to better attain the goal. I suspect we all have character traits that, if practiced with intention, can be improved and make us better able to achieve our moral objectives. But improvement is unlikely without us getting off our comfy character couches to question and challenge. And at this time in history, we need to question and challenge much. Question and challenge who we are as moral beings. Question and challenge all of our received narratives. Question and challenge what we've accepted about ourselves and about others. Question and challenge ourselves about what characteristics about us don't serve us and our community well and only sever us from our better selves and from being better to one another. I wonder how this time of pandemic that it seems we may be coming out of is going to have changed our character. In what new ways will we see our strengths and liabilities? What will we revise, edit, correct, condense, modify? I suspect 3 years ago, had you been asked what is essential and valuable work, you may have had a different answer than you might offer right now. Likewise, I found myself revising my idea of thoughts, things I took for granted. One of them is my idea of what it means to be vulnerable. Because I live in Lexington, an affluent town, a very historical town, and they will never let you forget it, I never asked, who are the most vulnerable people in my neighborhood? I have been much more concerned by thoughts of characters who look like me and live in a less affluent part of our Commonwealth, and wondering what are we doing for them, the ones that our society often overlooks and undervalues. So I never really thought of those characters in Lexington who might be vulnerable. During my Reggie reassessment, I asked myself, why? And truthfully, I did not like many of the answers I got back. But ultimately, I think I hadn't thought of doing so because I am surrounded by so many who see themselves as valuable that I never think of anyone as being vulnerable. Then I was made aware of the elders in assisted living near my house, and how desperately they needed company because of family members who couldn't visit them. I was made aware of how many people were locked in with an abusive partner. I was made aware of those with disabilities, both seen and unseen, who could not get to therapy that they needed to make life just a bit more bearable. I began to think of the eccentric man I always see alone at St. Bridget's, the man who I always avoided even before the pandemic. I found myself wondering if he's okay. And now I have found out his name and that he recently passed. Now I'm asking myself why he was at that church. What did that church mean to him? And why was I so dismissive and avoidant of him? Is this the character I want to be? Is this the change I want to promote? Is this the world in which I wish to work toward? No, it is not. I'm not who I need to be to make that world happen yet. So I've been working more diligently at asking, who nearest me in proximity is most at risk and why? And how can I help? What do I owe my fellow citizen? What essential and valuable work will I do? These questions and others help pull me and may even help you be pulled back to your stated moral objective. They are questions in which we must grapple with in this current context. And if we do so with intention and honesty and a resolve to better the answers, we might notice how our characters begin to change and become more complex and self-aware of their power to transform the dynamic of this situation. This pandemic has and is changing us. Humans have never gone through this kind of tribulation and remained unchanged. No matter how imperceptibly, by the time this is over, we as characters will have changed. The question is, what will we be changed into? Will we become the jaded character who has learned to become more cynical? The wide-eyed naive, too cowardly to act, assess, or challenge. The headstrong non-listener convinced they know it all. Or will we be changed into the one that listens with compassion? The one unafraid to reassess strengths and liabilities, to question themselves honestly, challenge themselves to be better, and actively work to bring actions into accord with the highest good. What do we want to be when we come out of this? Well, that may depend on whether we see this time strictly as an inconvenience in which we are only marking days until it's over, or as a time of cocooning in which we learn to transform, to change our caterpillar selves into butterfly. Perhaps what new narrative each of us will write and ultimately live is a question of character.
We take care of each other through our work, our activities, our financial support. If you are here in the building, please look for donation baskets near the doors as you leave. The ushers will be able to assist. You may also check in on our website, and for those of you watching at home, our donation link will be posted in the YouTube chat. Again, our March Share the Plate partner is ACE, Alternatives for Community and Environment. Please give as generously as you are able and willing. Thank you.
Challenging words, prophetic deeds. Good morning. I'm Melissa Martin, your Member Services and Volunteer Coordinator and your Interim Congregational Administrator. My pronouns are she and her. This month's theme is Renewing Faith. And if you've had a chance to look at our very full March newsletter, you will know that our congregation is renewing, reopening, reacquainting, re-engaging, and reimagining our congregational life in every way. There are many opportunities, both online and in person, for friends of every age, and I have just a few highlights for today. There in the newsletter, you will find a message from Deb Weiner, who writes, our March 27th worship service will honor our commitment to one another and to UUCR as we honor the ways in which we have kept the flame of our faith burning and acted as keepers of that flame. We also will celebrate the ways in which our hands have designed, made, repaired, and maintained quilts in our families and in our church family. The quilt is an emblematic symbol of that which is lovingly made and handed down from generation to generation, just as our faith is. So do you have a beloved quilt that you would like to share with us for that worship service on the 27th? We would love to display your quilt around the sanctuary and the church, so just let us know. There's also an invitation to take part in our new reimagined ministry for Social Hour this month. For now, we're simply providing beverages and great conversation outdoors after each service, but we're looking forward to having snacks return to our social hour in the near future, and we would love to have you participate. It's also that time of the year to think about Easter and flowers for our sanctuary, so look for an invitation this week where you could dedicate flowers in someone's memory or include a message to share for the congregation. This week, our conversation circles, hosted by the Strategic Planning Committee and the Committee on Ministry, continue with offerings, both today at 2 p.m. and Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Registration is included in the newsletter, and we hope that you'll consider participating to share your hopes and dreams for the future of UUCR. For this week's programming, on Monday, we have 3 great offerings, conversations with Katie, and in the evening, we have social crafty fun drop-in and Buddhist meditation. On Wednesday, we have Liberal Ladies who meet online. And on Wednesday, we're offering a special evening sanctuary from 5 to 7 p.m. where we will pray for the peace for the people of Ukraine. There'll be a special staff-led section from 5:30 to 6, and our pastoral care team will be available in Fellowship Hall from 6 to 7 for guided conversation. On Thursday, young adults 18 to 24 are invited to give our young adult small group ministry a try. That's online twice a month on the 2nd and 4th Thursdays. And on Friday, Katie continues to offer her in-person coffee and conversation at Cafe Nero from 10 to 11:30. Next week, on Sunday, our children's RE will return on Sunday morning, and this week, RE families are invited to look for an invitation to get kids registered. I wasn't kidding when I said there was a lot. We hope that you find a meaningful way to join us this week outside of services. And for now, I wish to take a moment to share a message from our office administrator, Linda Snow-Doxer. You will find Linda's entire message that was shared in the congregation in the newsletter this past Thursday. Linda shares that it's with sadness that she's chosen to leave her position here at UUCR, and that her resignation was not given lightly, as she notes having the utmost respect and appreciation for each and every one of you who have risen to the challenges over the last 5 years she's been with us. Linda shares that she has been continuously inspired by her fellow staff, the governing board, and so many other volunteers, and she continues by sharing the UUCR commitment to our community, to our world, and to social justice, along with the amazing artistic skill, craftsmanship, and generosity of our members that have made her proud and grateful to be part of this church. And she will continue to be on the periphery, cheering us on as a citizen of Reading. In closing, Linda writes, "It is my hope to leave the church the way I came in, hopeful about the future, both for the church and for me." And she ends this note with a note of gratitude by Melody Beattie. Gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. It turns what we have into enough and more. It turns denial into acceptance, chaos to order, confusion to clarity. It can turn a meal into a feast, a house into a home, a stranger into a friend. Gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow. Linda, On behalf of the staff in this congregation, I wish to share our sincere gratitude and good wishes for you in your next chapter. We appreciate the many ways that you have supported and enriched our congregation of these last 5 years. And in just a moment, I'll share a small token of gratitude to Linda, who's here with us in the sanctuary. For today, we warmly invite those of you joining us online to come to our Zoom social hour immediately after the service. If you'd like to send good wishes to Linda, please feel free to mail a note to the church and we will make sure she gets it. At the end of service, those of you with us in the sanctuary are asked to look for direction from your ushers who will help guide you out of the sanctuary. And you are invited to join us outside for some warm apple cider or hot cocoa immediately after service and to share your good wishes with Linda. We thank you all for being a vital part of our congregational life.
We'll close our service by singing again in your gray hymnal number 124, Be That Guide. And I want to personally thank Reggie for your very inspirational speech today. We really appreciate it, and it's lovely to have you in our cozy church. Please rise, embody your spirit, and sing.
Won't you join us in extinguishing the chalice? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts. In closing, I'd like to leave you with words from myself, Heraclitus, who was a 5th century BC historian, and Charles Spurgeon, who was a minister. They say, let us go forward, determined just to be a little bit better to one another, understanding that the act of becoming a better character in this human narrative we are collectively creating is not accomplished in a week or in a month, but little by little, day by day, through protracted and patient effort. Let us know it as the best tombstone we could have. Those we love and helped will remember us when forget-me-nots have withered. Let us carve our names on hearts rather than marble, and move through this world as a healing agent rather than a disease. Blessed be.